The thing about fundamentalism is it's taking whatever the book is, the Quran or the Bible, absolutely literally.
Right.
Now, I've met some pretty smart people in my life. You know, not a single one of them was literal-minded.
Right.
Right?
That's absolutely true.
So do we, So do we say, well, Jesus said these things, but of course Jesus was very, very literal-minded, so he would want these things to be interpreted absolutely literally. No, he was smarter than that.
John Cleese is vocalizing a belief here that is becoming popular in our culture today, that people who take the Bible literally are stupid because literal-minded people in general are stupid. Now, the thing is that although this sounds good on a liberal talk show and will get you a round of applause, John Cleese doesn't really believe this, because no one does. No one lives their life in a completely abstract way. And if they did, they wouldn't survive very long. If someone told John Cleese not to step out in front of a bus, he wouldn't say, I am too smart to take that literally. I know that you don't literally mean that. I know that the bus is just an abstract metaphor for the human condition, and that there is no bus but the bus in our minds. He wouldn't say that. And he wouldn't sound like that either because he isn't Russian. But he would take the advice literally and literally not step out in front of a bus. And that would be the smart thing to do. The dumb thing in that situation would be to spiritualize it. And if I said, hey, John Cleese, I've just been talking to your old skydiving instructor and he said to remind you to wear your parachute before you jump. He sounded pretty literal to me. Are you going to take him literally on that? If John Cleese replied,
No, he was smarter than that.
Then John Cleese would die, and that would be dumb. So intelligence isn't always being abstract, it's knowing when to be abstract and when to be literal. And the dumb thing is to take as abstract what was meant as literal, and to take as literal what was meant as abstract. So that takes us on to the question, should the Bible be taken literally?
No.
Yes. At least sometimes, probably more times than John Cleese would actually be comfortable with. Because although it's true that the Bible is full of metaphors, in the Psalms you're going to read poems and songs, in Revelation you're going to read about a red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, in Daniel you're going to read about 4 beasts coming out of the sea, and all of that is metaphor. The fact is that it's also full of literal history and literal truths. Jesus was literally born of a virgin, literally lived, literally was crucified, literally resurrected in bodily form, and literally ascended to heaven. Jesus literally said that he was the only way to God, and that literally no one can be saved except through him. The smart thing with literal truths like that is to take them literally, and the dumb thing would be to try to spiritualize it, as dumb as stepping in front of a bus or skydiving without a parachute. The smart thing is to seek the literal truth, know the literal truth, and then literally adapt to that truth. Now, if you're happy enough with that answer, you can hit stop in the video and end it there. But I also want to take just a couple of moments to explain the reason why our culture has come to be so suspicious of literal-mindedness. And it goes something like this. Our postmodern culture believes that if you're literal-minded about religion in particular, that will lead to doctrinal certainty and moral absolutism. And if you become certain about what you believe, that will then cause you to become intolerant and bigoted towards people who hold opposing views. And then that will inevitably lead to fighting and wars. That is the sequence of events that postmodern culture fears. They believe that what starts with literalism will inevitably end with violence. The world, of course, has decided that we don't want violence, we want peace. And so it wants to unravel this whole sequence. So the thinking is that if we want peace, then we have to get rid of intolerance and bigotry. And to get rid of intolerance and bigotry, we have to get rid of doctrinal certainty and moral absolutism and even truth to some extent, and replace it all with doubt and subjectivism and relativism. And if we want doubt, we have to then get rid of literalism and replace it with abstractism. Abstractism will mean that two people can spiritualize the Bible in completely different ways, twist and bend and shape it to fit with their individual tastes. So our culture thinks that while violence is the end result of literalism, if we want peace, we have to start with abstractism, believing that nothing is real, nothing is true, nothing is absolute, nothing is certain, and nothing is literal. That's why they fear the literal thinking and promote abstractism. Now, on the surface, these two sequences seem to have a semblance of sense about them, and that's why people like John Cleese and Russell Brand and a whole host of others in our postmodern culture think this is incredibly enlightened and smart to promote abstractism.
The things that we experience here, we can't make any absolute conclusions from them. No one knows if there is a God or if there isn't a God. No one knows which interpretation is closest. We know that religion has long been used and continues to be used to justify the objectives of man, whether that's crazy terrorists in Paris or a great big Catholic church.
But as we've already said, total abstractism is actually dumb, and nobody really lives like that because it's a denial of reality, and if we did, we'd be dead by the end of the day. But also, these sequences are just misinformed. They are too simplistic, because although yes, the Bible tells us to be certain about what we believe and certain that Jesus is the only way to God, Jesus also tells us to love our enemies and love those who hate us. So that instantly precludes us from hating them or going to war with them. This sequence actually falls apart with Christianity. With Islam, on the other hand, if you take it literally, then there will be violence, and that is something to be afraid of. But the answer isn't to claim that everything is abstract and avoid reality altogether. The smart thing is to face reality, face the literal truth, and then adapt to it. I'll wrap this one up here, but if you'd like to know more about the path our culture is on, then please refer to the 4-part lecture series called Understanding the Postmodern Age, which is available in video format or on DVD, or you can refer to the book Answers for a Postmodern Age, which is available from Amazon.